where we stand today on polio. I just looked just before we came, and it's now showing 82 cases this year versus last year, all of last year, there were over 33. So unfortunately, we're going the wrong direction. Pakistan, Afghanistan are still the problems, and that will probably go up further. So everybody, there is a tremendous need for fundraising for polio. So if you haven't given, please consider giving to polio eradication. We must get this completed. So moving forward, and I will tell you, I just had a delightful conversation at lunch with Kathy and Sam. Kathy being the actual founder of PharmaJet that we're going to be talking about today, and hearing about their background and how it was through medical missionaries that they went to these villages that had didn't have clean water, didn't have all the facilities that we're so used to, and realized that there was a tremendous need for a product such as PharmaJet today. So moving along, and based in Golden, PharmaJet's vision is worldwide acceptance of needle-free devices as a standard of care in the vaccine delivery market, thereby eliminating needle-based risks and inefficiencies in contributing to world health. How many would like to have an injection without a needle? All right. The partners for PharmaJet are WHO, the Gates Foundation, the U.S. government, small pharma, and academic institutions. So today we are very pleased to have Heather Callender-Potters here to speak with us. She is a co-founder, Vice Chairman, and Chief Business Development Officer of PharmaJet. She has more than 25 years of private equity fund management and international investment experience. And as it says in her bio, it was largely because of her international upbringing, traveling, living, studying abroad, as we hear about her parents and all they had done, hosting international students, being very involved with Rotary International, that she decided to get into international work. She also has a BA in International Management and an MBA from Wharton, Pennsylvania. Chris Cappello is the Chief Operating Officer of PharmaJet, and he has a BS in Mechanical Engineering from CSU. And he also holds a Project Management Professional Certification. He's over 15 years of project program management experience in experimental medical device development. He's managed multiple cross-functional teams and departments with successful design, development, clearance, and launch of both reusable and high-volume disposable medical devices. Welcome, Heather and Chris. So, can everyone hear me? A little louder?
A little louder.
Oh, no closer. Better? Yes.
A little closer.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and the truth is I didn't know it was Bring Your Parents Day, but Sue and I are at the same home. And also some friends that I didn't anticipate seeing here today, so Bill, thanks for showing up. I just assumed you were a Rotarian, or you will be soon, right?
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. Yeah. We have some slides and videos and an opportunity to show you actually how our technology works. So anybody at the end of this wants to head back to the table there, we'll show you exactly how simple it is. But we're delighted to be able to share the journey and some data, some real use that inspires at least us and hopefully you about how this tool, our PharmaJet needle-free technology, can be used to eradicate polio. So you see the devices in the right corner there. We're going to show you next a video which briefly explains patient experience and how it's used. Oh, here's your go-to pass. There we go.
PharmaJet is an easy push-and-click needle-free injection. With global regulatory and clinical claims for IM, sub-Q, and IV delivery, we eliminate needle stick, trash, and reuse. In field and sophisticated care venues, patients greatly prefer the experience, and training takes 20 minutes.
Using a needle to administer vaccines in a busy pharmacy can be a challenge. I've been stuck by a needle, and not only does it hurt, but then there's a process of follow-up and having to get tested and worrying about any health concerns. I load the syringe, I tell the patient they're gonna hear a little click, and then it's over.
PharmaJet's delivery can enhance the immune response several-fold. For the Polio Eradication Initiative, intradermal delivery can cut the dose by 60% while producing a superior immune response. We've also engineered out the waste, capturing more doses per vial, creating positive ROI for each injection. Global acceptance of PharmaJet's needle-free technology as a standard of care for the 3 billion annual immunization market is our mission. With 28 collaborations across more than 40 injectables, we are looking for partners to help us make that a reality.
So, we actually, instead of having 28 partners, are now up to 54 partners around the world and 90 development projects with brand new vaccines and cancer therapies. We are the only needle-free jet injection technology. So jet means a fluid stream that goes into your body that has regulatory clearance for intramuscular, subcutaneous, and intradermal delivery. It's really, really unique. And some of you may remember getting an immunization a few decades ago with a machine gun-like device, right? What they said is don't move because it hurt. And it actually had one fluid path, and that meant that potentially it could contribute things like hepatitis or HIV. So that was banned from use globally, and then the WHO had a call to order, could someone please develop a needle-free technology, safe and expensive? And my mother called me one day and said, I'd like you to help me to do that. So that's how the dynamic duo of mother-daughter team started. But if you fast forward to where we are today, we have a number of accomplishments. We have regulatory approval, thanks to Chris here, in 42 countries. Our manufacturing is scaled with automated assembly robotics and validated, which is a big word, meaning we get audited once a month or so. We have clinical efficacy claims of the same as, meaning non-inferior to needle-based delivery and actually superior immune response. And 46 issued patents and many more coming, and a bunch of trade secrets. So we focus on immunization for a reason. It's a huge market growing in perpetuity, approaching 3 billion annual immunizations, and times the birth cohort, times the number of vaccines that they receive. So in perpetuity forever. 37 billion is estimated today, growing to about 100 billion as more vaccines are developed for diseases that don't have cures today. And it's a standard of care. Besides clean water, it's the cheapest form of preventative health. And then lastly, needles are problems. In certain countries, needles can be reused, recultivated out of garbage dumps, washed, repackaged, and you would never know that. So, in terms of the, the drivers, I think some of you probably follow the rotary information that you get from the Gates Foundation. But it's been determined that if you invest $1 in immunization, that produces an impact of $16 in net health and $44 for the individual. So immunization is really important. We've engineered out all of the waste from our syringe. So again, thanks to Mr. Cappello here, who's a little bit like our co-founder. The technology that we have today has been designed by him. Needle cannulas always have waste. We have none. So consequently, we capture usually about 20% more out of every vial. And then we've confirmed that it's a simple push and click. We're 2 to 3 times faster than needle-based delivery, and 20% more people are showing up. So for herd immunity, where people are vaccinated, we all have a high standard of health. And when people are not vaccinated, it tends to spread like wildfire. So the skin is a really unique place. That's where your immune system largely resides, and it's obvious that we're fending off things all the time. So if you move from injecting in the muscle to the skin, it turns out that 80% less is about the same immune response. And we make that really simple. Very, very difficult to do with a needle. It's painful and it's slow, and most caregivers can't do it. So if 80% less is the same, it turns out that 60% less is better. In terms of the pillars that we focus on, just to cover a little bit about PharmaJet's business, we spend a lot of time on polio, which we're going to tell you more about, but we also have activities that are outside the United States as well as inside the United States. For other immunizations, things like influenza, we're working hard on pandemic preparedness. Flu is something that is recognized as a big economic contributor to productivity, but it is also a very significant threat as the disease morphs and as there are bioterrorism challenges. We work with 6 or 7 different agencies of the US government in developing brand new vaccines for various disease threats. And among some of the other novel vaccines, which include cancer, which we heard about today, very tragic, it turns out that if you inject into the skin near the lymph system, you have immediate lymphatic access in about 1 second. So the notion is if you can turn the immune system on via the skin and the cancer off via the lymph system, that may be beneficial. And while we don't have slides on that today, we're working with things like Zika, melanoma, lymphoma, all kinds of injectables that don't work well with needles. And based on the data that we have so far, generally 3 to 10 times better immune response is generated with PharmaJet than with needles. And we think that's because of the speed of delivery. It goes in less than 1/10 of a second, so faster than your nervous system can actually register a response. But back to polio for a minute. We have a 0.1 milliliter injection into the skin, intradermal. Every single time the syringe is used, it auto-disables, so you have to have a new one. It's faster, safer, easier, a quick push and click. Lots and lots of regulatory in place, including the World Health Organization. Credential, which took us 2 years to achieve. We also have FDA device master record status and CE mark, among other countries. But the highlight for us is that over a number of years, working with the WHO, CDC, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in a number of clinical studies, they were able to confirm that less is better. So 60% less vaccine administered with PharmaJet's needle-free Trophus device is superior in immune response to a full dose into the muscle. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to tell you a little bit more about polio.
See if I can get this to stay. Because you can always squat down. All right.
You can also hold the mic and take it off.
Problem solved. Not yet. So I think as most people know, polio is a devastating disease. We've had it eradicated in the US for quite some time. But like you probably heard in the news, it's coming back. The World Health Organization had been making really strong strides really up until the last 2 to 3 years, where they started really phasing out the oral drop of polio, which probably most people have gotten. They put on a little sugar cube that they ate as a kid. Well, that vaccine causes what they call vaccine-derived polio, because that has a live mutation inside the vaccine. So they have decided to switch to injectable, but there's many problems with that. One is there's not enough capacity, and the other is economically it doesn't make as much sense as the oral vaccine. So the solution to that is, can you do it with less vaccine? And that's why we teamed up with the Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization to really develop this technology and prove that this technology will enable you to inject with less vaccine and get a superior immune response. So that's kind of the baseline of where we're at today. The statistics are overwhelming in terms of why we need to eradicate polio. As Heather mentioned, it costs an individual or an economy $44 per person over the lifetime of that person if they contract polio. $44 more than it should have. This is just a little history about polio. I've already touched on it. But where we really want to focus today is around the last mile. So this is where we sit today. as a global public health community. We've almost eradicated polio, but we're still seeing two main problems. One is you need the oral drops to get the coverage and herd immunity because you don't have enough injectable, and then countries cannot adopt the injectable because it's too expensive. And so what we've done is we worked with the World Health Organization and Gavi and UNICEF and the Gates Foundation to really look at how can we make IPV or the injectable polio vaccine economic. And the solution is PharmaJet. It's by taking all of that vaccine that's injectable and making it go 3 to 5 times further than it can if you use the lone syringe. As you can see, right now, WHO is paying about $3.50 per child for that injectable vaccine. CDC in the US, we pay, when we get vaccinated, about $25 a shot, compared to what these communities are typically used to paying is about 18 cents. So you can imagine countries like Rwanda that are used to paying 18 cents. The World Health Organization goes to them and says, we would like you to use IPV, injectable type. They need to pay 20 times more, but they still don't have enough supply to vaccinate all their children. So it's just not happening. So that's why you're starting to see a lot more outbreaks in the communities. Up until last year, WHO still had not implemented IPV in all communities. Last year, at the end of the year, they finally got the last country, I believe it was Ghana, to adopt IPV at least 1 dose. So now children who are immunized, they get 1 dose of IPV and then a series of oral drops. And that was a big milestone because now countries at least have all the programmatic framework to do injectables. Because of the lack of IPV, there's about 200 million children that have not been vaccinated appropriately. And so the solution there is taking, like I mentioned, the current stock of injectable polio and using it intradermally. So over the last year, we worked with the World Health Organization. They've taken our product and gone through both clinical and field assessments with the technology to really prove out these facts. So all the data we're showing you today is not PharmaJet data. This is all data developed by the World Health Organization to help promote the technology. Oh, and there's a. So this was a campaign that was done in the Gambia demonstrating the difficulty with IV needle and syringe. So the gentleman on the left is trying to administer an intradermal injection of polio to this young child, and as you can imagine, there we go. As you can imagine, they're having to restrain and hold this child down by trying to give a very, very accurate injection. Where our technology, we take all the guesswork and really train them on an intradermal injection. You simply press the device up against the child, press the button, and you're done.
PharmaJet, helping you protect every last child.
And so, where we've been really over the last 3 to 5 years is you have to go through a certain series of steps to get medical devices adopted by the global community. The first is clinical. You have to prove it out clinically, and you can't do that by yourself. You have to get third-party validation. And so we work with the CDC and WHO to do that. And a lot of that work was funded by the Gates Foundation. And these are just examples of published papers of that is now used and verified by the WHO. The second is, so you can prove it works, but can it actually be used in these type of communities? And so we've worked in Gambia, Cuba, Pakistan to really field test the technology. So the WHO would take the technology out to these rural areas and go do vaccination campaigns and verify, does it truly do what you say it does? Can you get more vaccine out of the vial? Do people prefer it? Is it increasing their storage? And in all those cases, it does exactly as promised. We get about 20% more vaccine out of the vial, so you get immunized 20% more children than you can with intradermal needle insertion. And we take up less space and have less wastage for these communities at the end of these campaigns. As you can imagine, they amass a ton of needles, packaging that they then have to dispose of. And that all culminated really with a campaign in Karachi, Pakistan this year. So this was really the true field test of PharmaJet's technology. It was rolled out by the World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health in Pakistan. And over the course of 5 days was used to immunize 500,000 children in Karachi. And that's all well and good, and we got great results just like we thought we would. But what's really exciting, and for the first time, the public health community saw something they hadn't seen, which is they're seeing higher compliance rates. So a lot of outbreaks that you're seeing now are due to the fact that people are not being immunized. And this technology was attracting 20% more people to come to these villages to get immunized because they heard it was needle free. And that's really exciting the global health community. So our next deployment is planned. We will be going out to Somalia at the end of the year. It'll be a very analogous immunization campaign as Pakistan. And this is really to focus on the worst of the worst, right? Where is it hardest to get to? Where are the folks most in need? And really focus on it. So this is some video from the Pakistan community. So as you can imagine, these locations are extremely difficult. They're going house to house, or sometimes just laying a mat down in the middle of the street and bringing in children from different areas to immunize them. And that's the only way they can do it, especially in some of these conflict zones where if terrorist organizations know that you're going to be there immunizing ahead of time, they will do everything they can to stop that. And so you have to be very quick, it has to be very planned, and it really can happen anywhere. Okay, turn it back over to Heather.
I think Chris is more numerate than I am when it comes to calculations. He does the hard calculations. These are the easy ones. So this is a chart that was prepared, and I'm sorry you can't read all the writing so well. The chart was prepared by PATH, which is affiliated with the Gates Foundation. One of those really important things that we're allowed to tell you and make a claim because somebody else actually produced the data. So in comparison to, I don't know if I have a little pointer here. On the left side, the tallest bar, both of those tall bars, would be one injection into the muscle with a 5-cent needle and syringe, and all of the costs associated with the disposal issues. The lower bars, the PharmaJet bars, would be 2 injections into the skin, so 60% less vaccine, and we price at a premium. So more or less, it's about $1 of our material that it takes in order to accomplish that. We claw back a positive ROI because we get more doses and we have no sharps and we have no disposal issues. So whether or not it's a budget that is constrained in a country or it's the need to immunize more children, we frankly can accomplish both of those things. So 3 times more kids, essentially a standard at least 30% savings for every single injection. And if you could see this one, and I should use new colors next time. This is trying to explain to you that Gavi subsidizes a number of immunizations in the world. I don't know if you know the difference between Gavi and Rotary and Gates and et cetera, what they do. So WHO sets policy, and Gavi has the money. the Gavi subsidies for about 74 countries, and it's provided by Gates Foundation and Rotary in the 15 largest countries in the world. And the deal is that if the country wants to have a subsidy, they have to agree that they will have that subsidy for a certain period of time, that they continue their immunization programs in perpetuity. And they've been very, very successful in deploying a number of immunizations, and IPV, polio, is now in that process. This is a look-through basis. So sometimes people ask us, well, gosh, what does it cost? Well, our injector costs $415. But if we were to have 25 injectors, which is about $10,000, that would immunize 500,000 children during the course of that year, because the injector can go 20,000 times without failure. We've tested it to 30, which saves about $785,000, which pays for $300,000 of our disposable costs, and leaves another roughly $480,000 to do something else with, or immunizes another 250,000 kids. So if you were to relate that to a village or a small country or a large country, this is where it becomes meaningful, where one injector in one village can make all the difference and immunize a lot of kids as much as it can if you have 25 injectors in a small city. Also, I wish you could see this, but Peg pointed this out. We're not done yet. So in terms of wild polio emissions in the endemic countries, which would be Pakistan, Afghanistan, and probably a little bit of Nigeria, versus the vaccine-derived polio cases, the reason why there's still an urgency to keep going with polio immunizations and for Rotary to continue to raise money, among others, is that we're not done. In fact, it's another decade or two before it will be declared eradicated after they see the very last incidents. And most people think it's done, right? Polio's been eradicated, or there's a few number of cases, and that's a real misnomer. So I hope that you'll spread that word in particular, but remember what it takes in order to this kind of consistent drive on the last mile. These are examples of countries that we're working in. There's 155 countries moving from the oral drops to the injectable, which is just overwhelming. So we have a basket that we're highly engaged with that either have not been immunizing for polio or they are endemic. So Egypt would be an example where they're behind schedule. They've not been immunizing kids. They've not gotten enough supply. Nigeria would be polio endemic in certain places where they're not able to go in and actually surveil, but it's close to being confirmed that the polio incidence is zero most lately. But the point of all of this is that we're still a small company and we still have a long way to go. Our current capacities could handle about 8.5 million syringe output in a small little robotic that fits into your kitchen. We're finishing a fundraise to be able to increase the capacity, and yet this small number of countries here could constitute 5 to 10 times the capacity we have today. But if we're able to set a precedent and see great use, like we did in the case of Pakistan, and for the WHO, the next location would be Somalia, we think that that tipping point is what's going to bring forward the use case, which is why would you ever try and use a needle and syringe? If you can cut the dose by 60%, if you can get 20% more out of the vials, if you can save 30% for every single immunization, why would you do it any other way? And what can you do? Well, one, yes, spread the word, tell everybody about PharmaJet. But if in Rotary, many of the clubs do this, medical missions. If there's a medical mission that somebody's aware of going on where we are able to participate, that would be wonderful. If a club wanted to adopt a village and raise some money to make some donations, we would help match that with some disposables. And then at the end of the day, being able to network is really helpful. So Peg, for instance, introduced me most recently to the individuals leading the polio campaigns on behalf of Rotary. But again, it's a large organization with multiple clubs around the world. So we would be delighted if you would be able to make sure that you tell everybody about it when you do have the opportunity. So we're going to leave it there and ask you to give us some questions if you'd like. And again, at the very end in the back, we'd be happy to show you how it works. Sure, right ahead.
I just got a shingle shot last night at Walgreens. It hurt like hell. But I'd like to know if there's an economic case for rolling out your product commercially.
You can go get your flu shot here, and I'll tell you where to go, at Sam's Club on Broadway. There is an economic case. In fact, for both of our technologies, there's an economic case where we plow back at positive 10 to 40% per injection for the user, regardless of the vaccine, but obviously the cost of that vaccine makes a big difference. So flu, $9 a dose, polio, $3.50. With the shingles vaccine, I would say that in the newer vaccines, those franchises are pretty well protected, and you would not find that the vaccine company would really want to work with PharmaJet. In the case where those franchises are not protected, or we add some distinguishing value, differentiation, that's when you find that there's a pairing. And then there's another complication. So in the United States, there's something called claims, right? The best example would be that you're getting ready for work in the morning and you watch the television, and then there's that advertisement for the asthma remedy, happy family running through the park, and then at the end, they tell you that you might stop breathing and you might die if you take that, right? We've studied influenza as an example, and nobody's arm fell off, nobody got hurt. But for us to be able to study every single immunization is an impossibility. So the FDA is our official reference. They paired us with BARDA for pandemic preparedness. The stockpiling needs alone are 50 to 60 million, which overwhelms us. And we do certainly have users here, and physicians can make their own decision about what they use our technology for, because our label says that it's at their discretion. Where we promote for certain things is when we walk through and we talk about all the statistics that we verify. And in the rest of the world, many times the practical healthcare workers see the body of data that we have across numerous vaccines, and they think, well, that's fine, it's good enough for us.
So I have a question for you. Can you describe the engineering or chemistry that's going on at the situs of the injection, and why yours is pain-free, and why Cappello, which is probably cutting less tissue, is painful?
Sure. So it's definitely not pain-free. So when you hear needle-free, don't associate that with pain-free. We have two platforms. One will inject into the muscle and one will inject into the skin. The muscle device, we go out and we do post-market surveillance surveys, physician surveys, etc. And we try not to focus on pain, because pain is so subjective. So on any given day, you can go get a shot either with our device or with a needle and syringe, and you will get different sensations. So what we can claim, to Heather's point, the things that we're allowed to claim are 95% of everybody that gets a intramuscular injection with our device versus a needle would choose our device, hands down. So on that one, it's a little bit more difficult to explain pain. On intradermal, it's a completely different story. I can get into the engineering here in a second, but on the intradermal injection, we can claim less pain because we have enough clinical data and claims now to show that for intradermal injection, which is very, very painful and long, our injection is far less painful. Now the engineering that goes behind it, if you imagine the water spigot on the side of a house, and if you turn that spigot on without a hose attached, you get basically white water coming out of that, right? It's what's called turbulent flow. And if you attach a hose and you turn the spigot the same exact amount, the end of the hose, there's a nice clear stream that comes out of that hose. That's called laminar flow. We develop and engineer the products to have what's called laminar flow at the site of injection, so that you get a clean separation of tissue and deposit to the target tissue layer. So at a high level, that's the engineering that goes behind the device. Does that answer your question?
How fast does it inject that? Like, what's the speed?
It's very fast. I want to say, yeah, it's many hundreds of miles an hour. It takes about a tenth of a second.
I was very interested to hear your efforts to defend your technology and the various methods that you have created for our process. Could you share with us your thinking vis-a-vis barriers to entry, both opportunity and threat, from the potential largest market in the world, China?
Oh, sure. So China has tried to knock off our earlier generation technology with little or no success. That was about 10 to 15 years ago. We had a first generation system. We had a lot of learnings with that system, and we've since made our second gen systems. The way we protect is, it's really threefold. The first is around IP. So we do have a very, very robust IP portfolio, but we're very particular about the details we put into our patents. Because patents can be used to reverse engineer. So we have a whole series of trade secrets that don't ever leave the company. I've been there 10 years, I'm not planning on going anywhere. So that's number one. Number two is, because we're a medically regulated device, they're much more difficult to rip off. And the reason that is because you have to go through clinical claims and regulatory approvals to market your device, even in China. And so the collaboration partners, both on the vaccine side and on the regulatory side that PharmaJet has, you basically can't supplant it. They will be in place forever. And so if a company in China says they have the PharmaJet technology or they have another competing technology, they will not have that clinical data or the regulatory approvals to market that product. And then the third is partnerships. So in order to use our device, you have to pair it with an injectable. We strategically are partnering, as Heather mentioned, with over 50 partners right now. Those partners are drug and vaccine manufacturers to pair our technology with their product when they bring it to market, so that people aren't buying delivery technologies and injectables separately. So that makes it a lot more difficult to knock off.
I'll just add on China. So it's about a 1.4 billion annual immunization market, twice as large as what you would read on the internet. And their standard is that every kid must comply, and they receive roughly 13 different immunizations. And then there's a group of discretionary immunizations, and then another group that is related to specific issues associated with disease burden in our country. And we met with, or I have met with, the largest vaccine manufacturer there. And I would add the next layer, the fourth or the fifth or whatever layer, is that in order for those vaccine companies to actually export, they need WHO pre-qualification. So it becomes a very small club at the end of the day in terms of credentials. You're not allowed to market unless you pass the tests, and it's very specific to that manufacturer. So the claims that we have in terms of competitive advantage, we're probably 5 to 8 years ahead of anyone who would even want to try, because they would have to repeat everything that we've done. And I think we've been involved in 62 clinical studies, 26 countries, right? So probably the other way around, which is licensing, collaboration relationships, the traditional kind of, we would be on the acquisition list for probably some of the larger needle and syringe producers.
In Rotary, we've always been told we're just that close to eliminating polio, and I got kind of a different impression from what you had said, Heather, as far as don't be fooled, we're not that close. Can you maybe quantify and kind of tell us where we are as far as the elimination of polio?
Chris is probably better at this, but it's another decade or two after which time the last incidence of polio is observed.
Yeah, that's right. So the way the World Health Organization will certify is after 3 years from the last, certified polio case, which we're not even close to that, they will issue what's called polio eradication certification. That just means that they, in the span of 3 years, nowhere on the globe have seen a case of polio. That does not mean it's eradicated yet. that means that they phase out at that point all of the oral drops. So they will wipe out off the face of the earth all of the oral drops, and they have what's called a GAP-3 process with the CDC that will go around to all the labs in the world that study polio or research institutions and make sure that oral drops are never used again. And that will make sure that you don't ever have vaccine-derived polio. And they will immunize another 10 to 20 years with just the injectable before they make the claim of total global eradication.
Are you a for-profit corporation or are you a nonprofit?
We are a for-profit that feels like a nonprofit.
So in the world of medical devices or life science, the long haul is that you have to create it, test it, tweak it, take it through regulatory, lock it down, scale it, validate it, and then you get to commercialize. So in all of those industries, you would see that there's this big hockey stick. We're about a year away from break even, as an example. We are a commercial state, we have revenue, we have customers. And we're working in, we talk about Somalia and Pakistan because we're talking about polio. But we have use in places like Brazil, Singapore, United States. And the volumes, however, for immunization are in the rest of the world. So it's for profit. Every single one of our investors is high net worth or family office. And we're headed into our last institutional round right now, which probably will close at the end of October. That will get us line of sight to profitability, probably exit or transition or public flotation.
I know we're about out of time, but just a quick question on the subject of the flu, the effectiveness of the flu vaccine. Every year you hear, well, it's 40% or 60% or something. But I heard you say that if you get it from the PharmaJet because it's intradermal, it is more effective. How does that square with the statistics that we hear about the vaccine itself? In other words, and if someone goes out and gets one through a needle today, is it less effective than getting it through you?
So we've actually, in our larger 0.5 ml version into the muscle, proven that we are the same as, so non-inferior to needle-based delivery. So in that case, less is not necessarily better. However, there is data in influenza that intradermal, so reduced dose, is the same as the full dose. So we haven't done that study yet. We have in polio, and we've done multiple studies in polio. But if you look at the 32 vaccine preventable diseases in the world, roughly 1/3 of those diseases, the administration can move from the muscle to the skin. And in our novel developments, we're finding many of our researchers are range finding that they can actually move from the muscle to the skin. So what that saves in their creativity over time is savings in manufacturing costs, or they can immunize more people that have additional capacity. So there's ways to go. We've proven also, for instance, in HPV that 80% less is the same. Funny enough, depends on who you're talking to at the vaccine company, because when you can tell them that you can reduce the dose by 80%, some of them don't appreciate that. That's part of the reason why we have partners like the World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They did a big strategic plan and decided that by moving from the muscle to the skin would help afford eradication and deal with production and supply. And influenza, not quite as much, but we're about to do a study, thanks to Chris, with BARDA that will allow for the influenza antigen to be stretched across a larger population.
Well, I think that's all I have for questions. Thank you very much. What a great presentation.